Hey everyone, welcome to Virtus Vision. Today I am sitting down with Ryan Montis. He is a fellow board designated clinical hypnotherapist. He's a trainer and he runs a school in Toronto, Canada. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Alyson. Thank you. Very, very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited. So first off, I wore this for you, Toronto.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I did notice that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
So, first of all, I just want to say your background is really interesting to me. So, you are an ex soldier, you were a private investigator. I think you have experience in human behavior. Would that be fair to say?
I would say that would be fair. It would be fair. I will take that. I will take that label. Experienced in human behavior, for sure. Yeah.
I think that people who do what we do have an interest in human behavior. And that kind of background just sort of lends, I think, to being a great hypnotherapist.
I would agree. In this industry, in this hypnotherapy business, obviously I'm training people, and I get students from such varied backgrounds. And everybody brings their own life experience. Everybody brings their own story. Everybody brings their own, learnings. And that's why, I tell new hypnotherapists, when you embrace, what makes you unique, there's no such thing as competition, right? Because the people who resonate with your unique personality, your unique background, will only resonate with you, or will resonate with very few people. And when you keep that in mind, the other people doing hypnotherapy, they're not your competitors, they're just your colleagues,
It's
right?
true. And when we are all successful in this industry, we are all successful. Because I'm sure you share the opinion that the more information we can give people about hypnosis and hypnotherapy, the better off the industry and clients will be. So I actually do, well, first of all, I'm going to ask you, like people who do what we do, typically they've had an experience with hypnosis which has really resonated with them and changed things. That was certainly the experience in my situation. Was that yours that led you to study it and then share it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think most hypnotherapists have that experience where they've overcome whatever they've overcome, and they've embraced it for personal change, and then moved on to go and empower other people. So, I started learning about hypnosis and the unconscious mind and NLP, neuro linguistic programming, when I was still a private investigator. So I was in my very early 20s when I became a private investigator, working in Ontario and Quebec here in Canada. And I was a very different person than I am now. I used to struggle with things like anxiety and sadness and fear and anxiety, or social anxiety and shyness, and all of these things that really prevented me from doing what I wanted and getting what I wanted in life. And so when I was working as a detective, as a private investigator, and I was on stakeouts for many hours every day, sometimes in my car for 15 or 20 hours a day, I would listen to self-improvement and self-development audiobooks and autobiographies and all this stuff. And that's actually how I started to learn about hypnosis and the unconscious mind, was from audiobooks, in fact. And when I started to learn about that, my life really started to change. My confidence started to come up, and I started to learn how to make changes in my own unconscious mind and the way that our beliefs shape our capability and our reality as a human being. And so it was through unconscious mind tools and hypnosis that I was able to overcome so much in my life that was holding me back. And that process, kind of happened over the course of more than 10 years, until the benefits were so huge that I decided it's time for one more pivot. I love this stuff so much. I'm so passionate about it. I'm going to start teaching it. I'm going to bring it to the world, right?
I had much the same experience where it was like a slow burn of study. And then I had some really like focused clinical hypnosis done with me. And the changes were so undeniable. I I thought I got to study this and I have to share this. So I agree. It's just, I looked back and the cumulative changes were incredible. So yeah, I had a lot of the same thing, and I share that passion for just study of the unconscious mind in any capacity. I love it. So one of the things I noticed with your school, I love it that you go into the background and the history of hypnosis, because I think there are obviously a lot of misconceptions about hypnosis, understandably, because it's not, I wouldn't say it, I wouldn't put it in the mainstream category. But I think there's a lot of people who think that maybe in the past few decades, maybe since the 70s, it's been part of a movement, but they don't understand that it's been centuries of study and application. So do you think that's really important for people to know about the longevity of it?
I think it's not vital in the sense that I'm not shouting it from the street corners that everybody must understand the history of hypnosis. However, for those that do learn the history of hypnosis and for those that do understand it, they reap great, great, great benefit, right? And so, in that sense, yeah, it is quite important, in fact. And the benefits happen because, a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, have huge misconceptions, misbeliefs about what hypnosis is, even if it's unconscious. I was recently going back, and I was doing some searching on YouTube, trying to find representations of hypnosis in popular culture. And I started finding all these little scenes from like cartoons and movies, stuff that I know I saw when I was a kid, I know is deep inside my unconscious mind, and I totally forgot about. And if I saw all that stuff, it's like in Bugs Bunny and, stuff that everyone has seen.
Yeah.
And I think, and I know, in fact, now that a lot of people, all that stuff is there in their unconscious mind. So even outside of their awareness, they think hypnosis is X, when really it's Z. It's totally different than what most people believe. They think it's woo-woo or magic or, an old man waving a watch or mind control, when really it's total empowerment, total self-control, and one of the biggest secrets to getting what you want in life. And so when we're talking about history specifically, I think just for the sake of reframing people's beliefs and understanding around what is hypnosis, when we talk about the history and we say, hypnosis existed 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. I mean, even since the dawn of humans, as long as there's been a human with a brain, hypnosis and trance and accessing the unconscious mind has existed in some form. Just hearing that information tends to like snap people out of the mythos, the mythology around hypnosis. And then when they hear facts like, within the last couple of 100 years, there have been doctors performing open heart surgery using hypnosis, in lieu of traditional anesthesia. There was Dr. Esdale who traveled to, India and performed over 500, surgeries using hypnosis in lieu of anesthesia, and, saw his patients recover 3 times faster than other doctors and have significantly less instances of infection related to the surgeries. When people start to hear some of this historical information, then they come around to the idea of, wow, maybe this is going to work for me too, and it will if you let it. And I think that's why it's so empowering to understand sort of the heritage and the history and the lineage of how we got where we are today with hypnosis.
Well, you talk about doctors, it's interesting. I have worked with a few, and one of them in particular, he's an emerge room doctor, and he has told me he's used some of the techniques I shared when he does things like pops shoulders back into place, things like that, and people don't experience pain. So I've had direct experience with doctors now who are telling me that, wow, it works. But circling back to what you're saying about cartoons and things that have kind of permeated our sub-awareness all our lives, it's true. Movies, of course, TV, and recently I start listening to lyrics and songs that talk about, oh, you hypnotize me, I'm in a trance, we talk about mind control. That's one of the biggest fears I find clients have, is the whole mind control. You are in control of my mind if you're hypnotizing me. And for me personally, I can't think of anything more unappealing than being in control of someone. And so let's start there. I love your idea of going back to basics, simplifying hypnosis, simplifying the definition so people really understand. What would be your explanation of hypnosis simplified for a client or for your students?
Yeah, absolutely. I really think it is important to make hypnosis as simple as it is powerful. That's actually my new catchphrase for my company, making hypnosis as simple as it is powerful. Because the more complex it gets, the less less tangible and less attainable it is. And we want, great, fabulous results and changes to be easily accessible, both for hypnotherapists and for their clients, right? And so to understand what is hypnosis, I think it's actually as important, or maybe even more important, just to understand, the difference between conscious awareness and our unconscious mind power, right? So this model is that every human being, as long as you're alive, you have your conscious awareness, and you have everything else that's going on in your neurology that's outside of your conscious awareness, which we would normally call the unconscious, right? Or some people will call it the subconscious. Okay. And here's the kicker. Here's the secret, everybody. What's happening outside of your conscious awareness in your unconscious or your subconscious is pretty much running the show in your life. It's pretty much creating your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, and your behaviors create your results in life, which creates your reality. So, that's the difference between the conscious and unconscious. Your life, your results are a reflection of what's happening outside of your conscious awareness in your neurology and your unconscious mind. Hypnosis is the tool to access that unconscious part of you, to make the changes that you want to make so that you start producing behaviors that create the reality that you want to create, so that the circumstances around you rapidly and easily begin to reflect your true desires, right? Another way of looking at it is bringing into alignment what you want in the conscious mind with the programming that's running at the unconscious level.
Yes.
When those are in alignment, problems dissolve.
Right. And I was going to say, and so often they're not in alignment, and that's when people aren't getting what they want, or they're not happy, or things are not, you're not centered in some way. And bringing the mechanics of bringing those two things together is also quite simple. It doesn't, so often people think to make changes in their lives, they have to climb to the top of a mountain, or jump out of a plane, or do something magnanimous to have these epiphanies. And it's really all about simply removing that critical faculty and just accessing the sub-awareness, and maybe reframing or changing some old beliefs, or it's quite simplistic and beautiful, really.
Yeah, I agree. When you're in this line of work, you almost become desensitized to miraculous shift in people. It's just normal, everyday stuff to see, a person going from smoking 2 packs a day to not at all, no withdrawal symptoms, fine, loving life, right? One day they're a heavy smoker, one day they're a non-smoker, right? Or somebody has massive, with phobias, it's really fun. Somebody has a massive phobia, fear of heights, fear of snakes, or whatever. 20-minute, 30-minute session, all of a sudden they don't even remember having, the phobia in many cases. Yeah. And it's just run of the mill for us, like for you and I, everyday stuff. But here's the thing. Society has taught us, culture has taught us that change is slow and hard when it benefits us. Society has also taught us that change is fast and easy when it's to our detriment. We can gain a trauma in a second. We can gain a fear, a phobia in a second, based on one, experience with heightened emotion. But then we're told that no, but to reverse that or change it or gain an empowering belief, it must be slow and painful and drawn out. It doesn't even make sense. It defies common sense. Right? If we can change neurology quickly for bad stuff, we can do it for good stuff as well.
It's so true, isn't it? That we're so wired that way. I want to circle back to, we were talking about mythology around hypnosis, and it's quite amazing to me that the perceptions people have and the fears they have around trying it. Everyone wants change in their lives. There's no one I've met who says, no, everything, it's all good. We all need to sort of tweak things. And people will always say to me, I really want to do hypnosis, but I have these fears. And I explore the fears with them, and they're always there's common fears that come up. For me, it's the mind control. The other one is, am I going to be in trance? Am I going to get stuck in this trance zone? And I have to explain to them, well, you're in trance a lot most of your life anyways. Anytime you repetitively do something, you burn that neural pathway into your brain. You're going to go back. That's trance. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The first step in, successfully creating change in somebody using hypnosis or using unconscious mind techniques is guiding them to the understanding where they can release all that fear. In 100% of the clients that I've dealt with who have reported fear about hypnosis, 5 or 10 minutes tops of conversation about what hypnosis actually is versus what the old beliefs were, and the fear is gone. Because when we talk about how it works and what it is, people rapidly realize, okay, nobody's going to take control of me. I'm not just going to blurt out all my deepest, darkest secrets, all these little fears that either people have and are unaware of it, or they're aware of it, that they have these fears. And it can be a barrier until we're aware of it and we change it. And then when people, understand, they say, oh, they see behind the curtain, at the wizard, and they say, oh, okay, now I get it. That this is safe and this is comfortable. So yeah, that's a big part of, the process, I think, for sure.
And it feels good once you do it with someone in hypnosis, being in hypnosis and being able to have that just really internal focus. A lot of people in their lives, they don't get the time to experience that, and they realize this feels really good.
Yes, exactly. I say it's like, going and having a hypnosis session, it's almost like going and it's like the massage equivalent of therapy, right? Or the massage equivalent of mindset work. It's like enjoyable, it's relaxing, it feels good. And I tell my hypnotherapy students, like, you'll get rapid and lasting change for your clients, and they'll get what they want, but don't be surprised when they just want to come back for more sessions, because it feels good. And they'll start looking for stuff they want to work on because they know it's so effective and they know it's so powerful and they know it feels good, right? And it's, by that point, it's an investment, versus an expense, right? So yeah, people rapidly, we have this expression, people become hypno bunnies, where they're just like, they love it and they can't get enough, right?
I actually tried to sit down and make a list the other day of things that hypnosis could not address, and I was stymied to come up with something that hypnosis couldn't help with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had, when I first started, I had very specific things I wanted to work with and things that I thought I would be working with most of the time. And I'm no longer surprised by the things I hear or the things that I work with. I mean, it's everything. People will come to me with things that I never would have thought. And now I'm not surprised. Have you worked with most everything at this point?
I wouldn't say that I've worked with a very large and expansive different list of things. And as you say, every client is different, and also we see this sort of pattern of people come and they think they want this, and then with a little bit of conversation or a little bit of addressing this, all of a sudden, actually, it's that I need to take care of, right? Yeah. Or that they want to take care of, right? But yeah, you're right. Just some off the top of my head, public speaking, fears and phobias, afraid of driving, afraid of being on the highway, performance increase, sexual performance, you name it. I can't think of something that I haven't, either me or my colleagues or my students haven't yet addressed. Between those three groups, there's no more surprises at this point. And as you say, I've yet to encounter something that would be outside of the wheelhouse of hypnosis. Anything that involves your mind or neurology at any point can be improved via hypnosis. And of course, like everything does, right? That's how you experience the world, through your mind and your neurology.
Well, you touched on it earlier, and there's overlap too. People come to you with the presenting problem, which I always say is never really the problem, and then you work on something, and then they experience progress in other parts of their life too. That's the way it works. It's not always just that one thing that they come in for.
Yes, absolutely. I like to call that generalized confidence, where you really boost confidence in one thing, and all of a sudden the client is calling you saying, I don't know if this is related, but I did this and this, and it blew my mind. I used to actually see this. I used to teach public speaking, and people would come in week after week, and we'd do drills and do stuff to boost their public speaking. And almost universally with the students, which by the way is an unconscious skill, public speaking as well, almost universally, the students would say, wow, I'm really confident about public speaking now, but also, my athletic performance has gotten better, and this and that, because they don't realize that they're exercising that confidence and self-control neurology, which then goes on to affect their entire life.
Yeah, actually, my first experience with hypnosis was for public speaking. I was doing a lot of it in my work at that time, and I felt like I was a good speaker. I had taken courses, I was pretty confident, but I wanted to take it next level. And it really, truly is amazing what you can do. This is the other thing about hypnosis. It's not just to treat an issue, it is to enhance your capabilities and take them, make them explode. So there's really, it's not always just for a problem.
I agree. I like to say one of my other definitions for what is hypnosis is getting what you want in life.
Yeah.
You use hypnosis to get what you want in life. And if you want more of whatever, hypnosis is a great way to do it. More wealth, more success, more, ease in the things you're already doing, whatever. Hypnosis can probably help that. I mean, for myself as a trainer of hypnotherapy, I don't have these days I don't have a ton of problems in my life, but do I still use hypnosis for myself? Every day, because why not? There's always, as long as you're alive, you're not done, right? This is a journey. You can always be better. You can always be stronger. You can always, elevate yourself and the people around you, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of getting what you want in life, I know you use neuro-linguistic programming, which I do too in my work. Let's talk a little bit about the NLP stuff.
Yeah, sure. So neuro-linguistic programming. I had somebody, on a call the other day ask me, Ryan, what is neuro-linguistic programming? Which is, even for the greatest experts in NLP, this is the question. It's like, how much time you got, right? Like, what is NLP? NLP, it's this system of communication with the unconscious mind that can be used to communicate with either your own unconscious mind or other people's unconscious mind. I like to say it's very much related to hypnosis. It's another, if hypnosis is the bridge between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, NLP is like the ferry between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. It works differently, but it has the ultimate same goal of making change rapid and lasting at the unconscious level so that we can finally get what we want, right? What's your definition of NLP?
It's much the same. It's sort of using language to get what you want. In our case, when you use it with hypnosis, it's to get the client to what they want and where they need to be. So often it's gotten a bad rap in the past with salespeople using NLP, that kind of thing. So that's another challenge, is getting sort of the you use NLP? I don't know, that's kind of manipulative. But that's a whole other thing. We manipulate all the time in life anyways. We're always manipulating, we're always being manipulated. Let's manipulate for people's benefit. So it's just a language pattern you use to get people sort of where they need to be quickly. That's the way I put a fine point on it that way.
Yeah, and I like that as well. Hence the word linguistic right there in the title, using shaping our language in such a way that we can use it conversationally, to affect change. I like that word, that you bring up, manipulation, right? Manipulation, it's just another word for change, right? Except that, and I always say this, words have the same level of energy and meaning that we assign to them, and not more and not less. So if somebody decides that manipulation is a bad thing, then it's a bad thing for them. But, if somebody comes into my office and they're unhappy and they're not getting what they want in life, and I manipulate their unconscious beliefs or help them to manipulate their own unconscious beliefs, and all of a sudden they're happy and successful and they're out serving the world and everybody around them is happy, how can we say that's a negative thing?
And as humans, we are always trying to get what we want in one way or another. And if you can assist someone in getting what they want in an easier, quicker way that's more beneficial to them, then that is also manipulation, like you just said.
So, turning the steering wheel in your car is manipulating the direction of the car, right?
Right.
But if you want to get to the grocery store, you're going to have to do it.
Yeah. It's like you said, you can look at its perception and where you're going to look at something. Words, I sometimes with clients, when people with intrusive thoughts say, I said, words are just something floating through your mind, and they only have the meaning that you attach to them. That's it. And then, of course, you attach a meaning to something, then you're going to attach a feeling, then you're going to behave upon that feeling, and suddenly something has become important that didn't necessarily need to be important. So, yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, we were talking earlier about myths. What are some other myths around hypnosis that you have to dispel for people?
Oh, that's a good question. So we talked about, the idea of being under somebody else's control. And of course, that's nonsense. We talked about, am I gonna share or reveal all my secrets? And of course, that's nonsense. That doesn't happen in hypnotherapy. People never reveal anything that they don't want to. Yeah. I think some people have the idea that, they're going to be unconscious.
Yeah.
I don't know why I use the word think. I know some people have the idea that they're going to be unconscious or asleep or unaware if they're in this state of hypnosis, which again is not true. People who are in hypnosis are fully aware. In fact, they're hyper aware of what's going on, very focused, So there's also this word being zonked out. People sometimes have this idea that they're going to be zonked out when they're in hypnosis, and really they're not. Really they're not. Hypnosis is an awake state. Hypnosis is an aware state. Hypnosis is self-control. I like to give people the example of, you've seen, maybe on the Discovery Channel or the Learning Channel or something like that, they do these studies and they take these, either Buddhist monks or other people who have practiced meditation and who've gained like this heightened level of self-control. And they'll say, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Subject, can you make your heart rate go to exactly like 56 beats per minute right now? Can you do that? And they say, yes. And they're all hooked up to machines and they do it.
Yeah.
Right? And the fun thing is that's not possible without supreme self-control, obviously. And something that's controlled by the unconscious mind, such as heart rhythm, how can a person take such control of that? Well, it's by communication between the conscious and the unconscious, right? And so I like to say hypnosis is kind of like that. It's not anybody else controlling you. It's you're finally taking control in a way that probably you never have before in your life, just like the
I like it. I totally agree. There's a couple things that really jumped out that you said. First of all, 90+% of your everyday life you're controlled by your subconscious, including your autonomic system, your breathing and everything. So why wouldn't you want to sort of take more control over that and have some semblance of, power? And secondly, I often think it might be easier in my professional life to take the word hypnosis out of the equation and just explain what I do in terms of working with different brain waves, because it's the word itself sometimes which brings so much sort of trepidation with people, the word hypnosis.
Yes, I agree with you. And I have that same thought from time to time. The word hypnosis is a double-edged sword, because it draws attention and people, have some empowering expectations around it, which are probably true. But then also, we need to overcome the incorrect assumptions about it. And there are, in fact, I've got my eyes open. There are modalities out there, which I've learned, that people are using. And it's called X, it's called Y, it's called Z, and they're getting fabulous results. And I know as a trainer of hypnotherapy that it's just hypnosis, rebranded as something else, right? And there's a lot of modalities like that, and power to them. I say, as long as you're getting great results for your clients, I don't care what you call it, right? As long as you're getting the results. And, to your point, sometimes that can be useful to just bypass, some of the headaches around having to overcome that, right?
Well, speaking on other modalities, there are some really clear stats out there as to why, maybe opposed to talk therapy, things like that, how hypnosis is more effective and powerful. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you know about I think there's room for all modalities of healing for people, whatever speaks to them, but, stats don't lie. So let's get into that.
Yeah, I mean, there's this very famous stat in the hypnosis industry, and in the actual study, I think it's somewhere on my Instagram. You can find an infographic about this. I don't remember the name of the person that published it, but 93% success rate with hypnosis after 6 sessions or less, right? is this stat that we all celebrate and we all love, and is totally in alignment with my experience and the experience of the students that I've trained, which is very high compared to many forms of traditional talk therapy, where it's dozens or hundreds of sessions to affect change or to reach the goal, right? 93% success rate after as little as 6 sessions is just like, it's so good that the problem is people almost don't believe it, right? It's such a but it's true. And you and I both know we see massive change in clients in as little as 1 session, right? If I don't see a shift in a client in 1 session, I wonder, like, why not, right? What's going on?
What do you do in that case, by the way? If you don't, where do you take the session from there if you're not seeing it? Or do you talk it out with the client whether they're resistant to actually letting go and being in hypnosis?
Yeah, in those very rare instances where somebody hasn't gotten at least some result or some shift after 1 session. I mean, first of all, I inoculate the clients against that just with the way that I run my sessions, right? So the way and I teach my students this too, the way I structure the sessions, we won't get into the meat and potatoes of the session until we know we have compliance from their unconscious mind anyways, right? So this pretty much solves that anyways. But, my advice to people out there who are hypnotherapists who, don't see necessarily the result that they want after the first session is don't worry, do a couple of more, right? There's this thing called fractionation, the law of fractionation, where every time a person leaves trance and goes back into it, it gets easier to go back in, and they go back in a more profound way. And this can happen in an immediate sense within 1 session. This can also happen in a more prolonged sense between sessions. But I know people who have had, and this is the client's perspective explanation. Oh, I experienced no shift after the first session. I'm not sure if I want to continue. And by session number 3, it's like, this is amazing. My life is totally different. How can I learn to be a hypnotherapist? Because that's what I want to do now, right? Not uncommon to see that in those rare cases where they're skeptical or they didn't see the result they expected in the first session. So, my first advice to hypnotherapists is, if you're having clients who are not seeing shifts within the first session, you may need more reframing around what is hypnosis early in the session, to overcome that. It's actually an easy thing to overcome.
And those clients who say after 1 session, well, I don't know that there's been much of a change, but what's happens are other people in their lives see the change in them sometimes, so that it's just something that they're a very subjective sort of point of view on it. But the changes are happening and others can see it.
Yeah. Bandler talked about this back in the 70s and 80s when he started teaching hypnosis and NLP, right? Richard Bandler, by the way, is one of the co-creators of NLP. And he said, one of the problems that I had when I was starting out with client work was the hypnosis and the NLP would work so well that the client would forget that they had the problem to begin with, and they wouldn't remember why they paid me. Right?
It's a good problem.
Stand up and say, I feel great, Dr. Bandler, I'm not sure why I'm here, right? And so, I see this sometimes with students and clients where it's like, I think what's going on is that when you congruently dissolve a problem at the unconscious level, it's very hard for them to associate back into it, right? Even though they logically remember they had it before, it's like part of them can no longer perceive what it was like, right? So it's, you'll occasionally see this thing where clients will come in, and they'll say, well, you'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, what's your problem at, like, in your mind, a scale of 1 to 10 right now? And they say, oh, it's a 9 or a 10 right now. And then we go through and do a full session, and by the end of it, it's, say, okay, so now how's that problem feeling? It's like a 0.5. Well, isn't that fantastic? Yeah, that's pretty good. And they're just like, in their mind, they're already getting on with life and doing other stuff, right? Even though we've just witnessed like this change that, with any other modality would have taken years or months to occur or have been impossible. With hypnosis, we do it in a few minutes. So that, that's one of the things, it's the joy and the curse of being the hypnotherapist, in other words.
But it ties back to what we said off the top about simplicity. The simplicity and the mechanics of it, in the mechanics of change with hypnosis, really. Yeah. So, Ryan, who are some of your inspirations in the field of hypnosis?
My inspirations in the field, there's so many great contemporary figures in hypnosis right now, and so many good, wonderful, people in the past. I think one of the biggest influences on me has been Dr. Tad James. Dr. James, he established the American Board of Hypnotherapy, the American Board of Neurolinguistic Programming. He was one of the very first master trainers of NLP certified by Richard Bandler. And he passed away actually just a few weeks ago, just very recently. But I would credit Dr. James and Dr. Al Krasner with helping me to understand that this stuff can be simple. This stuff can be very simple. So when I started learning hypnosis and NLP, I started learning under a curriculum that was designed by Dr. James, and then eventually under a curriculum designed by Dr. Krasner. And just in terms of simplicity to power ratio, I've not found anything like it. So, great credit goes to Dr. Tad James. And then in terms of modern day people, Freddie Jacquin and his son, Anthony Jacquin, I love those guys. They do great stuff.
I've seen some of their work. Yeah.
They're terrific. They keep it simple, but they've got some powerful, unique patterns of hypnosis that they've created and have shared with the world. And, that stuff is a joy to work with. And then, of course, the sort of the grandfather of modern conversational hypnosis would be Dr. Milton Erickson, right?
That's my guy.
Yeah, that's your guy. That's a lot of people's go-to guy, right? We wouldn't be where we are in this industry if it wasn't for Dr. Erickson. Dr. Erickson lobbied the AMA, the American Medical Association, back in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, to accept hypnosis as an accepted medical practice, right? And I don't know that hypnosis would be what it is today in Canada and the US if it weren't for that, right?
Yeah, and just the conversational mastery of Erickson, that witnessing that kind of tradecraft is just, he's been a huge inspiration for me, for sure.
Yeah. For those listening and like conversational hypnosis, I think the book is called My Words Will Go With You. And it's not written by Erickson, but it's sort of a transcript of some of his more famous sessions. And it's just genius the way he conducted his work. Erickson, he operated almost every day from 1920 to 1980 when he passed away, many days seeing between 10 and 14 clients. Right? He was a hypnosis machine. And whether people realize it or not, he actually, in my opinion, changed the way we communicate as humans. The patterns that came out of Ericksonian hypnosis have permeated, popular culture, permeated advertisement, and have, and now can be observed as being very commonplace, even though people don't realize it's Ericksonian hypnosis that's happening.
They didn't even realize they were hypnotized. Change would occur within 10 minutes, just a conversation. It was, incredible. Yeah. Ryan, thank you so much for all of your wisdom today. It's been wonderful. I would love to have you back. We've kind of just scratched the surface. I'd love to have you back and go deeper and talk about specifics with hypnosis. Would you be up for that?
I would absolutely be up for that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So everyone watching, I am going to link Ryan's information below. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me on social media. And Ryan, do you love questions as well?
I love questions. If you have questions, the best way to send them to me is via direct message on Instagram. That's the fastest result that you'll get, the fastest response that you'll get. Yeah, if you have questions, I love talking about hypnosis and the unconscious mind. And by the way, Alyson, thank you again very much. I'm very grateful for your invitation to chat with you today.
Oh, yeah, it was wonderful. I loved it. I loved like-minded people, of course. It's always exhilarating, the conversation. But do you have any words you want to leave us with? Any wisdom, anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, it may not be the most elegant way to say this, but everybody out there, if there's something that you want in life that you haven't gotten yet, it's probably the result of what's going on in your unconscious mind. And there's something you can do about that. And it's called hypnosis.
Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah. Oh, and if you want to learn how to be a hypnotherapist, come talk to me. I run great training.
Yes. I'm going to link the school information as well. So thank you for joining us today, everyone, and we'll see you soon.